The world in which we live can be characterized by three words: tears, fears, and doubts. We know it is caused by an irregular virus. More than 10 million people are affected by this pandemic, and the fatality rate has swelled up to half a million plus. The whole world is weeping in tears. The whole world is trembling in fears, and doubts and pessimistic thoughts pop up everywhere. As Christians, we also have our own share of tears, fears, and doubts. The question is, what is the message of hope amidst our tears, fears, and doubts? John chapter 20 addresses these three issues, and I think it is relevant to reflect on this passage as the world is facing this pandemic. John's gospel, though very simple, is very profound in its symbolism and interpretation of the life and ministry of Jesus. It was written in a turbulent time to a community that was tossed between the imperial Rome and the ultra nationalistic Judaism. The community was excommunicated from their religious places. They faced threat and persecution as a religious minority. They had their own share of tears, fears, and doubts. On the top of it, their leader was crucified as a result of the joint effort of the imperial powers and the nationalistic collaborators. The community went through a time of tears, locking down themselves behind the doors and faced with a lot of doubts regarding their lives and future. To such a community, Jesus appears and commissions them for a new vocation, empowering them by his Spirit. John 20 deals with three important issues in telling us how Jesus deals with our situations of tears, fears, and doubts. 20 verse 1 to 18 deals with the weeping of the community through the portrayal of Mary and the other women. Chapter 20 verse 19 to 23 pictures a community in trembling and fears and behind the doors locking down themselves. Chapter 20 verse 24 talks about the doubts in the community through the portrayal of Thomas. But in all such situations, amidst their tears, fears, and doubts, Jesus comes and meets them. He speaks to them, he commissions them, he empowers them, and thus he dismantles their doubts by revealing his identity and love, and he asks us to confess him as the Lord of our lives. I think it is the message of resurrection that alone can give hope amidst our situation. It is the theology of survival. The power that is revealed in and through Jesus is the message of hope amidst our tears, fears, and doubts. The disciples were shocked because of the events that happened were beyond their natural, ordinary expectation, and this affected their normal way of life. The first natural response to such shocking event is tears. We see similarly in John chapter 11, Martha and Mary weep because of the shock of the departure of their beloved brother. By seeing their tears, Jesus, the Lord who has authority over everything, weeps. The Bible teaches us to weep along with those who weep. Therefore, the question is, how do we live in the present, and what is the role of the church today? The role of the church is to find its place humbly among the mourners and the people who are weeping over. Friends, how does Jesus work amidst our tears, our fears, and our doubts? Firstly, Jesus works beyond our expectation amidst our tears. John chapter 20 verse 1 to 18. Mary went into the tomb along with other women, expecting a closed tomb, but found an open tomb. She expected a stone at the entrance, but she found it rolled back. She expected to take the dead body of Jesus, but was met by the risen Lord. Friends, God intervenes beyond our normal, ordinary human expectations. Secondly, Jesus reassures, commissions, and empowers them in their fears. John chapter 20, verse 19 to 23 talk about what Jesus does amidst our fears. The disciples, out of their fear, they were behind the doors, and the doors were being tightly closed. Jesus came and stood amidst them. He was reassuring his presence by standing by their side in their fearful situation. This is the testimony about God in the Bible. He is always there with his people in the midst of all turbulence. He reassured his presence by promising them shalom, the peace of God. Jesus is reassuring his presence by revealing himself to them and telling them, "Do not be afraid, it is I." Their fears turned into joy as they saw the Lord, and he commissioned them to go into this world just as he was sent into this world. Rodney Stark beautifully writes this in his book, The Rise of Christianity, that the Christians in the early centuries, in the context of a plague or an epidemic, would stay where they are and nurse the sick people, even while the well-to-do people will go and search for hideouts and isolate themselves from the common folk. In turn, these Christians may get the same disease and die. If asked why they are putting their life at risk, they would always say they are imitating their master who put his life in the line to save all of us. To carry out such a demanding task, they needed a special empowering. Therefore, Jesus breathed into them, recreating and empowering them in the midst of their fears. Thirdly, Jesus reveals himself and asks us to trust in him amidst our doubts. John chapter 20, verse 24 following is talking about the doubt and unbelief in the community. In the midst of such pessimism, Jesus reveals himself to the doubtful community. He showed them his side and his hands. His scars proved his identity. His hands proved his love. And Thomas confessed, "My Lord and my God." These are two titles that are used for God in the Old Testament to show two great actions of God. Whenever they refer to God as the Creator, they address him as God. Whenever they refer to the role of God as Judge, they use the title Lord. This simply means he is the Creator, he is the Judge. In other words, he has the first word and the last word in your life. He is the Alpha and the Omega. He is the beginning and the end. Friends, God is an ever-present help in times of our troubles. He would come and meet us amidst our tears, our fears, and our doubts. He works beyond our ordinary expectations. He would dismantle our tears. He dismantles our fears by standing with us, by commissioning us, and by empowering us. He reveals himself to us and asks us to continue to trust in him amidst all our doubts. He is telling us to accept him, the Lord of our life. May God bless all of us.